Scottish Highlands. You'll never get anywhere better. It's a Sunday morning and I'm quite close to the small town of Callender, and we're going with the bike and on the bike, and I've just stopped off here before we get on the old Caledonian Railway track bed, because the gorse at this time of year, the very end of April, looks absolutely beautiful. So I hope you're going to enjoy this little trip with me. Come on, this is beautiful, this is. You can just hear a few birds singing, and you can hear water rushing in the background, but look at the beautiful colour. So peaceful and quiet. Just got the new leaves coming on this acorn tree, and down there is the main remains of last year's fruit. Just love the sound of rushing water. All making its way down to the Scottish Loch. So here we are now in Callender, and to the left there is the walk cycleway, but I thought before we got on the bicycle, Callender very quickly, just up and down the main street, see if there's any nice buildings to look at. And then, when we've done that, we'll get on the bicycle and we'll be cycling northwards along that pathway, eventually joining parts of the old Caledonian Railway that ran from Stirling up to Callender and Fort William. That's looking northwards along the main street towards Loch Head and Callender. The view up there eastward, some nice little towered buildings. And this is looking southwards down the main street. Looking northwards again, one or two nice buildings. That one could do with a bit of paintwork, touching up. Some lovely blossom out as we look across this little graveyard, just behind the main street in Callender. And finally, a look from the river bridge, and if you look at those hills in the distance, that's where we're going to be going on the bicycle. So here we go now, cycleway number 7 in the Scottish Highlands. We've only come 1.5 miles out of Callender, and look at the fantastic scenery. And I'm not alone, am I? I thought you might like to have a look at the wildlife. Well, they're nearly tame wildlife, aren't they? Farm life, we'll call it. But I love it when they skip and jump about. They're absolutely beautiful, aren't they? Leaving the sheep behind, and just over 1.5 miles out of Callender, and we have this lovely arched farm bridge. Can you imagine a single line railway and a steam train coming through there? Well, that's what it would have been like in about 1950. I believe this railway was closed down in the late 1950s. It opened up, of course, the late 1800s. This is an interesting little area. Although now covered in trees, this was a farm bridge that came across the railway track, and that was a central support. We've done just over 2 miles now, and it's a steady climb uphill for about 16 miles. We're not going to travel all that way, but it'd be very nice coming back because I won't have to pedal at all. The hills in the front of us are some of the barriers that face the big railway builders, but although the railway is climbing up a gradient all the time, it's going through an actual pass between 2 sets of hills, which we'll probably be able to show you better later, and it runs right alongside the lake. But we're entering what is known as the Pass of Lenny, and there's also the Falls of Lenny in the river, where the river tumbles over all the rocks and boulders. Whether we'll see that from the actual railway track bed, I'm not sure. Looking back now towards Callender, that is a cutting that the railway company had to cut through sheer rock. And you can see what lies ahead. But here, over the side, we're in the actual Pass of Lenny, and these are all parts of the Falls of Lenny, the waterfalls. Not actually waterfalls, but they call them the falls because their water is falling over large and small rocks and creating a lot of noise. Well, that is the main road from Stirling up to Crianlarich and Fort William. Not very busy this morning, but I have cycled down part of that. Whether I'll come back down the road depends on whether I can find a place to cross this river. But I think I'd be as well just to keep to the railway track bed and come back in safety. We'll see anyway. Don't know how far yet, how far I'm going to cycle up the river, up the railway. There's a couple of canoeists there going down through the falls. And all I can say is the best of British luck to them. There he goes, he's off again now. Amazing how we all get our pleasure in the countryside, isn't it? Now here's something that I've just caught sight of. It's a lovely scene here in the wooded area, and here's a tree right in front of me with little flowers growing. How about that then? They're growing on the bark of a tree. Marvellous nature. We all know what the mighty rivers are made up of. They're all made up of little tiny streams all running into the main gully. And that is what is happening here on the River Lenny. You can see I'm standing on rocks, balancing, a little bit wobbly, but this is where those canoeists came down. And this is looking in the other direction, that's looking northwards. No shortage of water here. I've said it a lot on my films, and I'm going to say it again. Absolutely beautiful. You couldn't ask for anything better than that, could you? I can hear lots of moo cows are mooing. Is it milking time, I ask myself. This is Tell you what, you can go anywhere you like in the world. You won't get any better scenery than this. You might have higher mountains and bigger lakes, but oh, it's so pretty, isn't it? Well, that is Ben Ledi or Leddy, not sure which. And that's Loch Linney. And as you can see, the cycle track is getting quite busy now. Another little mountain stream here. Goes under the railway track bed. Lovely, isn't it? Lovely to see families out. Another view across Loch Linney. Little bit more here for you with all the lovely gorse. That's the main road over the other side of the loch. Well, that is an old telegraph pole left here from the days of the Caledonian Railway, and you'll find an odd one or two of these as you cycle up the railway track bed. What about the height of that then? I bet you if I come up here tomorrow you won't see one other cyclist. Well, you'd be very lucky anyway if you did. So here we are again. We're still cycling up the banks of Loch Linney. We've done 6.69 miles. Which is farther than I intended to come, but I feel okay, because what I have to remember is that I've got to cycle 6.69 miles back to the car again, so I have to be very careful I don't push it. But it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's a gorgeous day now the sun's come out. You've probably gathered that we've climbed up a bit higher now. In fact, quite a bit higher. We're about 3 miles from Strathyre. Whether I make it to Strathyre or not remains to be seen. We've come back down to loch level now to find a few Highland cattle, which are always a pleasant sight. Going to hide behind a tree, he is, or even she. I don't know whether it's a he or a she. Here I can show you an old farm overbridge, and the horses and carts would have gone up there, up that ramp which would have been built by the railway, and then over the bridge, over the railway, and down the other side into other fields or even a farm. But of course that's all been dismantled now. It's been 60 odd years ago since steam trains ran along here. Well, it's a wonder I'm not puffing like mad. I must be fitter than what I thought. I've just had to climb right up a zigzag path again. I didn't expect this. Never mind, I've decided that no matter what I'm going to go as far as Strathyre so I can see where to park when I come again to do the other part of this ride. That's where I've just come up this zigzag, look. I don't know what it looks like on camera, but rest assured it is quite a climb. So I had to push the old girl up because I ain't got the energy to ride it. And you can see we've still got to go a bit higher yet. Now I know what's going to happen. We're going to drop right down to Strathyre, and I'm going to have to climb right the way back up, and then on the way back go back down this zigzag. But I suppose it's all good fun. It's nice to be able to do it, to have the energy to do it. We are now about half a mile from Strathyre, so I've made it, and it's going to be 10 miles. So I'll have the 10 miles to cycle back down that valley, all alongside that lock again, right the way back to Callender. So today, in reality, I'll have cycled 20 miles. I've reached the village now, so I thought I'd start off with having a look at this memorial. It'll be a bit noisier here than what it was cycling down the railway track. It'd be quite a beautiful place to live if it wasn't for the traffic on the roads. And the main A-class trunk road runs straight through the village, although it's a very small village anyway. But some nice little cottages here and lovely flowers. Absolutely brilliant riding along this trail. Trail number 7, Callender, up towards Killing. I'm sure that you've enjoyed it. It's been absolutely beautiful. With the water rushing down there, the birds whistling in the trees, I bid you a very warm farewell.